The following is a faithful English translation of the story in its entirety. I have not summarized, omitted, or altered the storyline. If there are any parts that had to be adjusted slightly for natural English expression, I will explain them in Japanese at the end. It was around a Friday, with the first summer of my college life drawing near. Even college students, who are said to be in the prime of their moratorium period, face obstacles. Namely, the midterm exams. If we don't get through them safely and earn our credits, we won't be able to fully enjoy the precious summer break. I was in my room, studying for the tests that were starting the following week, with some friends I'd made at college, though we were still a bit distant. Let's call them A and B. That's when A suddenly said, "I'm so sick of studying for these exams. I'm bored. How about we take a little break?" B responded, "So, what do you want to do? Play some games?" A said, "It's a bit early in the season, but how about a test of courage?" B shot that down immediately. "Nah, man. We've got no girls here to go all eek." B, "I'm so scared, no kya kya oofufu, so what's the point?" A persisted. "We haven't actually known each other that long, right? I figured this would be a great event to deepen our friendship." B, sounding slightly creeped out, said, "Dude, you're not, like, seriously into guys, right? In that way?" A snapped back, "No way. Chill out. I just think it'd be a good change of pace. Actually, I found a likely spot near here. And, well, I kinda already got some stuff ready during the day." I chimed in, "Wow, so you were all prepared for this, huh?" At first, B was reluctant, but once he found out that the destination wasn't some rumored haunted hotspot but just an unmanned shrine within biking distance, he grudgingly agreed. As for me, I've always enjoyed ghost stories and was totally up for a test of courage. I have zero sixth sense, though, so back in middle school, even when I went to famous haunted spots with my close hometown friends, I'd never seen or experienced anything whatsoever. I figured, yeah, it'll probably be no big deal this time too. When we arrived at the shrine, I said, "It's not actually a haunted place or anything, so if all three of us just go in there, hang around, and leave, that's boring." That's why I made some preparations and came up with a set of rules. The rules for our test of courage were as follows. 1. All three of us enter the shrine grounds and make an offering at the main altar, basically to let the deity know we're doing a test of courage, since all three of us are huge scaredy cats. 2. Behind the shrine, in a spot where nothing would catch fire, we put up a little windbreak and place 3 candles. We used aroma candles as substitutes. 3. Then we go back to the shrine entrance. 4. We each go alone, in turn, to the candles we set up. As proof that we made it there, we light 1 candle and come back. 5. After all of us have gone, we all return together to the candles, blow them out, and remove the candles and windbreak. 6. Finally, we apologize at the altar, like, "Sorry for the disturbance," and head home. We decided the order by rock paper scissors, B, then A, then me. B, who looked like he'd be the most scared, ended up going first. I was worried about him, but even though I could see a bit of fear in his eyes, nothing happened, and he came back just fine. Next was A. As the one who proposed the idea, he showed no sign of fear and returned without incident. Lastly, it was my turn. The shrine was small, and once you passed through the torii gate, you could see the main hall right away. Shrines at night have a naturally airy vibe, but there wasn't much wind that evening, and there was moonlight, so I didn't feel overwhelmingly scared. I walked past the main hall, around the side of the main sanctuary, and headed to the spot we'd set up. 2 of the 3 candles were already lit. Thinking, yep, nothing's gonna happen, I felt equal parts relief and a tiny bit of disappointment as I lit the last candle. Then I headed back the way I came and returned to my friends. Once we were all together again, we walked back to the candles to extinguish them and collect everything. We were joking around like, so, nothing happened after all, and still, wasn't that atmosphere kind of intense, in its own way? But sure enough, nothing happened then either. Finally, we offered our thanks that nothing weird had happened, apologized for making a fuss, and left the main hall. Then, after about a dozen or so more steps, we were nearly back to the torii gate. That was when it happened. A chill like an icicle shooting down my spine froze me in place, and every hair on my body stood on end. I tried not to look behind me and glanced sideways. Both A and B were rooted to the spot as well, indicating they felt the same thing. I muttered, "No way." I said, "Crap, maybe the deity's pissed at us?" He was trying to keep it light, but the look on his face said otherwise. I continued, We're almost out of here, just a few more steps to our bikes. Let's do this. Maybe we'll have a good story to tell if we turn around all at once. B said, don't be stupid. In these situations, it's always best not to look. We should just keep walking, get on our bikes, and go. Meanwhile, as for me, I'd never had any real supernatural experiences, so my curiosity outweighed my fear. I said, come on, this is the real test of courage, right? We gotta see it. While we were standing there bickering, the presence behind us kept growing more intense. B was pushed by A and me, and eventually we all decided to turn around on the count of 3. At first glance, under the moonlight, the shrine grounds looked empty, nothing was there. But squinting, I saw something like a black puddle between us and the main hall. Was there any puddle over there earlier? We just walked by, and there definitely wasn't anything like that before. I realized that the faint rustling of leaves we'd heard until a moment ago have completely stopped. The silence was so total it made my ears hurt. Then, plop. I thought I heard the quiet sound of a pebble dropping into water. That black puddle-like thing rippled. Slowly, 2 ink black things that looked like hands rose from within the puddle, as if something was trying to crawl out. In that moment, a feeling told me that whatever it wasn't just a ghost, it was something far more malevolent. By the time I saw what seemed to be its head slowly emerging, the 3 of us bolted. We hopped on our bikes and pedaled as fast as we could, not daring to look back. Eventually, we collapsed back at my place, panting and terrified. Once we firmly locked my room door, we were still badly shaken. What the hell was that? This is so bad. This is really, really bad. I've never seen a ghost before, but that thing is on a whole other level. It was giving off some seriously dangerous vibes. Terrified of the silence, each of us rambled about nothing in particular. But after a while, we realized that nothing seemed to be following us from the shrine. We left the lights on, turned some music on the stereo, and tried to sleep. Because of the fear, I was wide awake. But by the time morning light seeped in through the gap in the curtains, I started to nod off, probably from the release of all the tension. That's when I had a dream. In the dream, there was nothing, just darkness. 3 candles stood there, just like the ones we used in our test of courage. And one of them lit up. That was it. When I woke up, I asked A and B, and they both had the same dream. The fact that all 3 of us had seen it made our skin crawl, but we decided to split up for the day anyway. That night, Saturday, I had the same dream again. In the dark space with the 3 candles, the second candle lit up this time. When I woke up, I found it unsettling, like it was foreshadowing something, but I had to study for the test starting on Monday, so I stayed home and hit the books. As I'd feared, Sunday night brought the same dream again. This time, the 3rd candle lit up. It gave me a terrible sense of dread, but I couldn't skip the exams, so I headed to campus. Neither A nor B, who were supposed to be in the same classes and exams as me, showed up. Worried, I took my tests as scheduled, finished my classes for the day, and tried calling A. He was a bit incoherent on the phone, so I couldn't make much sense of it at first, but what he said was A, still sounding confused, told me, the day I woke up from the dream where the 2nd candle was lit, that thing from the shrine showed up. I guess I was so freaked out by it that I missed a step on some random staircase and broke my leg. Now I'm in the hospital. When I contacted B next, it turned out he had a similar accident. He crashed his bike and ended up hospitalized as well. Even though I was relieved they were at least alive, a creeping sense of fear welled up in me as I realized I would almost certainly be next. Right then, someone suddenly spoke to me while I was sitting on a bench on campus, making me practically jump out of my skin. It was C, a woman 2 years older than me and an old childhood friend from my hometown. "Hey," she said. "Why the long face?" I blurted out, "Oh, it's you, C. You scared me half to death." C glanced around as if looking for someone. Then she froze. "Whoa. D, you've got something nasty tagging along with you." "D is me." I said, "Huh? Tagging along? What do you mean? You can see something? Wait, you can see that kind of stuff? You never mentioned anything like that before." "Slow down," C laughed, "one question at a time. Here's what I learned about C and what she told me. About C. She's from the same hometown as me, the older sister of my childhood friend. The 3 siblings are eldest daughter C, eldest son E, who's in some Shinto-related college, and younger brother F, my childhood friend. They're from a family that runs the local shrine in our hometown. She's been able to see things since she was young. But she never told anyone because it's not exactly something you bring up casually, and she didn't want people who are too interested in that stuff latching onto her. What she told me. Something unknown and not human, definitely not a simple human ghost, is attached to me. From what she can tell, it's more likely to harm a person's mind than to cause direct physical harm. If this thing remains attached, I'm probably in for a world of trouble, maybe even death. When I asked if she could still see it right then, she said, "Look over there, at those rows of trees." She pointed toward the tree-lined path in the distance. "I see students heading home from their classes and exams," I said, "nothing else." "All right, take off your glasses and look again. Focus on the area around their feet." So I did. Even though the rest of the scene and people were all blurry, I could just make out what looked like an upper torso made of pitch black tar, crawling in place. "You see it?" C said. "Kinda like crawling chaos, right?" I exclaimed. "See, you were a shrine maiden, Miko, at your family's shrine, right? Can't you do some sort of exorcism or purification?" She shook her head. "No way. All I can do is keep stuff from sticking to me. I might have been able to if I'd actually inherited the shrine. But, nah." She continued, "But seriously, what did you even do? You don't get something that nasty tagging along just from visiting your average haunted place." "We just did a test of courage at a shrine," I told her. "That's it." She let out a non-committal After a moment's pause, she suddenly grabbed my arm and linked hers through it. "Well, standing around talking here is no good. Let's head to a bar or something, I'll buy. Just stay close to me, and you'll be fine. Oh, and lucky you, my brother's coming to see me soon. He should arrive in about 2 hours, so you can relax till then." She started walking, tugging me along. She may have a straightforward, no-nonsense personality, but with her long black hair tied casually in the back, she has this classic beauty that would look amazing in traditional Japanese clothing. I'll admit, despite the seriousness of the situation, my heart was pounding a little. We ended up going to a bar with private rooms and continued our conversation there. Once we settled in at the bar, I explained everything that had happened. Here's the gist of what she told me. I later googled some terms I didn't understand at the time. 1. Why she herself can't perform an exorcism. Typically, Shinto priests, Shinshaku, don't have the power to exorcise spirits or whatever by themselves. They must borrow the power of the deity they worship. Shinto priests originated from the roles of priestesses and shamans, Kanagi. They're not like Buddhist monks, who can guide spirits to enlightenment. To borrow the deity's power, you need the right stage setup. In other words, you need the shrine grounds, a yorishiro, divine medium, etc. outside a shrine. They can't do much of anything. 2. Why that thing would be in a shrine's sacred space. Unlike temples, where monks might set up spiritual barriers, a shrine is basically a stage for bringing down a kami, deity. It only becomes a genuine sacred space when a deity descends. If there's a resident priest and the shrine is properly maintained, the deity is enshrined regularly and weird entities can't get close. But at a neglected shrine that's not routinely maintained or prayed at, you have a stage that attracts all sorts of unwanted things. It's dangerous. At that point, a new question struck me. So then, why did you say I'd be safe once your brother arrived? From what you just said, a Shinto priest alone can't exorcise anything, right? And he isn't even a fully qualified priest yet, he's still a student. Or do you two combine your powers, or something? She shook her head. No. Sure, everything I said about priests lacking exorcism power applies to he as well. But he's special. It's like our family's deity is always protecting him. I don't know the exact limits of that protection, but anything that can harm someone, ghost or otherwise, can't get close to anyone within his line of sight. I let out a small gasp. Wait, so maybe that explains why nothing ever happened when I did haunted spot tests of courage back home. Because he was always there, right? Yup, she said with a laugh. But why is it just he who gets that kind of special treatment? Does a deity really protect only one person? I mean, there are shrines all over Japan, and in many of them they enshrine the same deities under what's called bunrei, the division and transfer of a deity, right? She sighed. This might be a bit long, but that okay? What C told me about her family's shrine, with some parts intentionally vague to avoid revealing the exact location. Her family's home shrine, let's call it Shrine A, is a branch of a larger network of shrines sharing the same name. In other words, it's under some sort of main shrine. However, her lineage originally served a different shrine, Shrine B. Shrine B still exists, but the direct management has passed to the local neighborhood, while her family has more of a supporting role. Although Shrine B isn't large, it's old enough to be listed in the Engishiki Jinmai Ocho, meaning it's at least 1,000 years old. It's somewhat unique among shrines across the country in two ways: its main deity and its architectural style. It enshrines a particular kami deity that isn't the main deity of any other shrine in Japan, only Shrine B. At some point in history, possibly due to war or disaster, the original Shrine B burned down and was lost for a while. It was rebuilt in more modern times. During the period where Shrine B didn't exist physically, her family's head priest, at the time, would invite the deity into his own body, acting as a kind of vessel, to keep the faith alive across generations. When a child in the priest's family turned 10, there'd be a ritual to formally pass on the deity. From then on, the current head priest and designated successor would coordinate when to do another ritual to hand over the role fully. There's no fixed age or timing for the handover ceremony because accuracy, i.e., making sure the ritual really succeeds, mattered more than tradition. Her family went that far to maintain faith in this deity because somewhere in the regions surrounding Shrine B, there's an extremely powerful something, like a deity-level being that's harmful to humans. She suspects that this deity has been holding in check. When Shrine B was rebuilt, it was officially because historical records showed there had once been a prestigious shrine there, and local enthusiasm for rebuilding it grew. But behind the scenes, that region had been without that shrine for so long that, despite her family's periodic private rituals, the seal on that something was weakening. That something was starting to adversely affect the surrounding area, which spurred the restoration of the shrine as the local tutelary. You can even see a clue of its importance in the shrine's architecture. For such a small, rural place, it includes a structural feature you'd normally only see in very prominent shrines. This suggests it was given high priority at the time of rebuilding. Nowadays, Shrine B is properly maintained, holding festivals and rituals on schedule, so that malevolent being remains sealed. Given all that, he is essentially in a perpetual partial possession state by their family's deity, granting him powerful protection. Around E, it's as if there's always a mini-sacred precinct that dangerous spirits cannot enter. So for E, exorcising something that's just latched onto me isn't a big deal at all. C even joked that if he just shows up at this bar, the thing haunting me might vanish on the spot. She told me a story that convinced her of this. After he performed the ceremony at age 10, officially designating him the successor, the next day at C's elementary school, every weird thing she used to see there was suddenly gone. Later, when she was in middle school, the same phenomenon repeated itself a day after he enrolled. That's when she was sure. While we were talking, he arrived at the bar. After everything C had told me, I still saw him as just a normal, good-looking college guy. "Long time no see," he greeted me. "Sis told me about what's going on. Yeah, I can see that something's bothering you." Then he lightly tapped me on the head with his palm and said, "All right. That should do it." "Wait, that's it?" I blurted out. "Aren't you supposed to chant a Norito or something?" I was half expecting the move from those urban legend exorcists, but he literally just tapped me gently. He laughed. "No need for that. We're done." C peered at me and said, "Yeah, the thread-like thing coming out of your head is gone. So you're good now." Honestly, it was so anticlimactic it left me speechless. That night, the three of us grabbed some drinks, and then I went home and slept. The strange dream with the 3 candles never came back. He also took care of A and B's attachments the next day in the hospital. Even though A and B both got injured, in the end we all survived. The biggest lesson I learned? Never go near an unmanned shrine.